How's it going, everyone? Data here, and it is time for my annual tutorial video for how to make your rosters salary cap compliant on NHL. Today, of course, starting off for the first time in NHL 24, using the most recent October 20th EA rosters, I'm going to be taking you through step by step how to make these rosters salary cap compliant, since franchise mode does not include LTIR and not able to reconcile that. And on top of that, I'll be showing you how to download my own rosters if you would prefer to use those if you're on PlayStation 5, and even if you want to follow along in the written form, you want to have this all written down, I will link you to the Puckpedia article, as I've been doing an article for Puckpedia since NHL 22 about how to make your rosters salary cap compliant. So first off, the question is, why am I even making my roster salary cap compliant? Why would I bother doing this? Now, if you are doing a franchise mode save file, especially one that goes for a few years, you want the players in the franchise mode in the league of the NHL to be restricted to the same contracts they have in the real world. So on most teams, there isn't really anything to do, but on other teams, let's say in 2023-24, the Colorado Avalanche, there are some teams that are really utilizing LTIR, and because of it, they're going over the salary cap. And because they're over the salary cap, the game automatically reduces salaries, which is what we don't want. We want to give ourselves the most realistic challenge possible, as well as forcing the AI general managers to not get cut a break, to not be allowed to just say, okay, we're over by 8 million, but it's okay because these contracts are all changed. No, it's actually going to be a challenge. For example, on the Avalanche, because Gabriel Landeskog is on LTIR right now, Nathan MacKinnon's contract of $12.6 million for 8 years, if you were to start up a franchise mode today on NHL 24, you would see that his contract is actually 8 by about $11.9 million. So the Avalanche now get a $700K break on Nathan MacKinnon. In total, they get about a $7 million break from Landeskog being on LTIR. So McKinnon's down by about $700K. Makar's making about 8.1. There's about $900K off him. The game does things arbitrarily, but I just think that it takes away from the actual challenge. So as you can see, Mikko Rantanen, he's not actually making 6.5 million in the real world. He's making in the 9 millions, but I'll go into in a moment why I made some alterations to the Avalanche to allow them to be salary cap compliant. Even into the future, like Devon Toews, if you don't change things on the Avalanche, his 7 by 7.25 extension becomes a 7 by 4.5 or so extension. So I find that just makes it not as fun. You have really good 90 overall players who are on cheap contracts. Things just aren't balanced, in my opinion, in that way. So that's why I go ahead and make these changes. I share them to the community, so you can go ahead and download the roster on your own, or you can make these roster changes yourself. They are quite quick and not hard to do at all, especially with the new patch that just got added now to franchise mode. If you're to go in and change a contract, for example, things are way faster than it once was. If I scroll down to the money here in the salary, once I hold it down for a few moments, it starts jumping by exponential amounts, jumping by millions at a time. So I can go from 0 to 15 million in just a matter of seconds, as opposed to what it used to be. So whether you be making these changes yourself by watching along with the video, or reading along with the Puckpedia article, or just downloading the rosters, I would highly, highly, highly recommend them. I don't get anything from you using them. It's not like EA pays me if you download the rosters. I'm just doing this because I want you to have the most realistic and most fun, immersive franchise mode experience as possible. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and run through the alterations that I made. If I don't comment on a team, it's because there were no changes for that team to make. For example, the Ducks, no changes. Now, the Arizona Coyotes is where we're going to start off here. The Coyotes are under the salary cap by about 5-ish million, because in the real world, they have Brian Little, they have Voracek, they have Shea Weber. That is why here in the game, when those LTIR players are reduced to 70 overall and given league minimum contracts, things get imbalanced. So instead of Clayton Keller having to have a 5-year contract of 8 or 8.5 million, I just make one small alteration, and now everything is as it should be. So what I did was that I transferred Shea Weber and Jakub Voracek off of the Coyotes. I'll show you at the end of the video, use the timestamps, how to transfer a player off of a team. But I transferred them off of the Coyotes, and what I did was I gave Brian Little a $6 million contract, 1 year at $6 million, 70 overall. You'll never see him, you'll never use him, he'll never get in your way, but he will keep the Coyotes salary cap compliant, and after 1 year, he's gone, and the Coyotes will be forced to get to the cap floor once again through signing free agents or whatever else. So adding salary to an expiring contract is what you have to do, and I would recommend giving that to one of the LTIR guys, whether that be Little or Voracek, but not Weber, because Weber is signed for 3 more years. So after the Coyotes, the Bruins, no changes. The Sabres, no changes. The Calgary Flames are slightly over the salary cap, so you need to make a reduction. What I do is I go to the expiring contract that has the least amount of impact, I think, in my opinion, on the simulation, on top of it being a contract that is costly. So, for example, instead of reducing Dylan Dubé from $2.3 million to league minimum, I'll reduce Nikita Zadorov from $3.75 million down to $1.5 million. So that is the one change that has to be made in Calgary. Carolina, nothing. Chicago, nothing. And now here's the big one, the Colorado Avalanche. On the Avalanche, you have 2 options. Option number 1 would be to transfer Gabriel Landeskog off of the Avalanche and to an international team. You never see him again, his NHL career is over, but the team is automatically salary cap compliant and you have no more issues. If you think Gabriel Landeskog is coming back in 2024-25 and you want to keep him in the simulation, A, you could drop him to free agency, but another team will sign him. Or B, you'll have to make a few other alterations to the Avalanche. The first alteration would be reducing Mikko Rantanen's salary from $9.25 million to $6.5 million. It's a bit cheap for 2 years, especially as a 93 overall, but because of that Devon Toews extension, we have to reduce the salary of not just players for this season, but for players who are signed on for beyond this season. So Rantanen from $9.25 million to $6.5 million. Bowen Byram, reduce him from $3.85 million to $2.5 million, and Ryan Johansson, reduce him from $4 million down to league minimum at $775K. There are theoretically other ways to do this, but I found this was the way that has the least impact on the simulation, like I said once again, and I can't just reduce Thomas Tatar, for example, because as I said, it has to be someone who has an extension beyond just this year in terms of their salary. So those are the 3 major changes you have to make to the Avalanche so that you can keep them to be salary cap compliant this year and in the seasons moving forward. After that, the Blue Jackets, the Stars, the Red Wings, the Oilers, the Panthers are all good. The LA Kings, there is one change to make, as Matt Roy has to be reduced a little bit from his $3.15 million, down to $1 million. So just one change to make on the Kings, nothing to do for the Wild. For the Montreal Canadiens, they are salary cap compliant, nothing has to change, but if I were you, I would transfer Carey Price off of the team. He's a 70 overall, making league minimum, it doesn't change anything. But I think it makes sense to move out a player if it is 99.9% confirmed that his career is over. I'll show you again, as I said at the end of the video, how to make those player transfers. After that, the Predators, the Devils, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Senators are all good to go. On the Flyers, same thing with Ryan Ellis. Ryan Ellis, I'm not sure if his career is over just yet, but the game seems to think that it is, as he's down to a 70 overall as well, so I transferred him off of the Flyers. The Penguins, the Sharks, the Kraken, the Blues, the Lightning, surprisingly, are all good to go. Just the one thing you can do on the Lightning is transfer off Brent Seabrook if you would like. On to now the Toronto Maple Leafs, where there are 2 players that you can ship out, being Jake Muzzin and Matt Murray. But on top of that, there is one small alteration to make, and I made it to TJ Brody, reducing his salary from $5 million down to $3 million. So as I said, you can find a different expiring contract and reduce that by $2 million. You could reduce John Klingberg from 4.15 to 2.15, Max Domi from 3 to 1, Bertuzzi from 5.5 to 3.5, but I thought that TJ Brody would make the most sense here. So $5 million to $3 million. Now over to the Vancouver Canucks. One small alteration here as well, as Ian Cole's salary is changed from $3 million and reduced to $1.5 million. Over on the Vegas Golden Knights, no changes to make. Vegas was the biggest headache last season, but this year, no changes to make at the beginning of the year. The one thing you could do, though, which I didn't, was move out Robin Lehner. Whether you keep him or not, the Golden Knights are salary cap compliant, but if you think his career is over, or if you just prefer not have him here, you can transfer him off of Vegas, and the team will still be fine whether he's there or not. So that is up to you. Finally, over on the Washington Capitals now. Just one change to be made, as Anthony Mantha had his salary reduced from $5.7 million to $3.75 million. Just one change there in Washington and nothing in Winnipeg. So those are the changes that have to be made, ladies and gentlemen, to make all 32 teams in the NHL salary cap compliant. Now, if you want to know how to transfer players around, here's what you got to do. Go over to the More tab and then click on Rosters. From Rosters, scroll down to Player Movement. In Player Movement, you can find whichever player on whichever team you want. Let's say I was moving out Robin Lehner. I'd go to Vegas. I would select Robin Lehner right here with the square, and on this right side I would find the team that I want to transfer him to. It can be any international team. So I've been putting everyone here on Team Austria. As you can see, Muzzin, Weber, Seabrook, Price. So if I transfer Robin Lehner over to Austria, he is now there and nowhere to be seen in the NHL, not counting against the salary or anything else. That is how a player movement is made. You got to press X to confirm it, and then you can double check if you want, scroll down and see, there he is. Lovely. Now, your last question may be, if you're on PlayStation 5, how do I download this roster? What you got to do is once again go to the More tab, and this time click on Roster Sharing. From there, click on Download Community Files and scroll down until you see my roster. That roster is titled Data Cap Compliant, and the creator is Data782. So if I scroll to the bottom here, there it is. I just created it a few minutes ago. Data Cap Compliant, and you'll be able to click on it right here, and it will download automatically, and it is now in your rosters. You can set the downloaded file, which is my roster, as the active roster, or you can click continue and think about it later. And then when you want to actually make it your active roster, again, you go to rosters, click on active roster, and then choose that roster to be your active roster, data cap compliant. This roster only includes those salary cap changes. Nothing else that I will have in my own custom rosters, like created players or different overall changes, are included here. That will be a separate roster that I'll put out at a different time. This is just to give you the base, and then from there you can do what you like. You can import other rosters, merge them with created prospects, whatever you like. Or you can download mine if you think that that's something you would like to do. Those will come out at a future date. But for right now, it's just that salary cap compliance that this roster cares about. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that this guide was helpful for you. Make sure to also check out the Puckpedia article. It's the third year that I put it out now with NHL 22, 23, and now NHL 24. So a huge thanks to the group over at Puckpedia. A fantastic resource whenever you're checking salary caps, or even when you have a question, you're able to ask them on their site your salary question, and they are the experts, or the capologists as they call themselves, who will be able to answer any question that you may have. So leave a like if this was helpful for you. Leave any of your questions or comments down in the comments here on YouTube, or join us over in the Discord server for much, much more as we continue to put out more content for NHL 24, guides, tutorials, rosters, franchise modes, career simulations. This is the place for it. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe, join the team, and it'll be that much greater of a community with you as a part of it. Thanks for taking the time to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing you once again in the next one.